Every preacher has been there. What am I going to teach on next Sunday? And I've been there too, yet I think sometimes this pressure is unnecessary. Using a good process to plan a sermon series can help you create room for creativity, excellence, and alignment within your entire team. I'm going to quickly get into the 4 steps, but stick with me just for a few quick moments while I share some of the benefits in case you or a team member are unsure if using a sermon series could actually be helpful. Often a pastor or communicator desires space to speak freely about what is in their heart. And it's for this reason that it's understandable that pastors and preachers like the idea of crafting messages the week of. However, a sermon series format is helpful because it provides a focal point for the preacher while also allowing space to speak freely within that theme throughout the weeks. Also, a properly planned sermon series can give your creative team or the team that you work with time and direction to help supplement the message with creativity or additional elements. Plus, a series gives you time to communicate to your congregation about upcoming messages and why it will be meaningful for them to hear them. I like what Rich Birch says about this from Unseminary. These stretches of 4 to 8 weeks are a great way to focus your audience and community on what it is that you will be talking about concerning the teaching of Jesus and the Bible. The benefit of a series of messages is that it allows time each week to spend on an important idea or issue related to the series theme. As a result, by the end of the series, you've provided well-rounded and helpful content related to the series topic. I also like what Tony Morgan says. A really good message series planning process creates flexibility both for the teaching pastors and for the creatives. I believe using a thoughtful and prayerful approach in creating a series at your church will be appreciated by your team, congregation, and even the community. So step 1, identify the theme. What is the topic that you believe God is leading you to speak about? Grasping what God may want you to focus on in a series may seem like somewhat of an elusive task. However, I believe God wants to help those who prepare messages to effectively share his heart. Asking a question like, what is God currently doing in my life, can start uncovering some topics that God may want you and your team to plan for. Here are some more helpful questions to help you unsurface a topic or theme. What issues or problems are currently breaking my heart? What scriptures am I currently reading? What is a felt need that is currently happening within my community? Discussing questions like these as a team can help you get a sense of where God may be leading you in creating your next sermon series. Hey, let me ask you a question. Do you want to get more mileage out of your weekly sermon? Use the link in the description to sign up for my free content stacking strategy for churches of any size. Next, step 2, brainstorm related topics. Now that you've got a sense or an idea of what your theme may be, what topics are related to this theme? Again, asking more questions will help reveal weekly sermon topics that can fit within the theme of the series. Here's some more questions that can help you discover important topics, needs to be met, and solutions for people's problems. What hopes and desires do people have related to this sermon series theme? Which problems can be solved by addressing this theme? What feelings do you think could arise in people concerning this sermon series theme? Which questions have you ever been asked related to this theme? Exploring and answering these kinds of questions can help you ensure consistency throughout the series and that you stay within the theme in a relevant way. And most importantly, using this type of approach can help your congregation engage more effectively with the messages. Plus, I think people will appreciate the support you're providing them through a thoughtful, prayerful, and creative sermon series. Step 3 is to discuss a target audience. Now, asking this type of question, I realize, can be taboo in some church leadership circles. However, just hang with me for a second. When you think about this theme and the topics that are relevant to it, who do you want to reach through this series? And like I said, at first thought, this may seem unnecessary or superficial. Churches land on different sides concerning the idea of targeting a desired audience. But having a sense or an idea of who the person is that this type of theme or message will most help and what they may need related to it can help you determine the best methods to connect with them. I do believe it is important to put some thought and prayer behind this for a few reasons. One, because you're identifying who this sermon series will be the most helpful to. Second, are there people who may find this series isn't relevant to their life? And third, if so, which aspects of the preaching should focus on principles rather than specifics? I agree with Carey Nieuwhof. He says, when you do a decent job of thinking what my audience is thinking, the content resonates much more deeply. With a little consideration for those that you're hoping to reach, you can more adequately speak their language and meet their needs through an effective sermon series. In step 4, clarify the main idea or bottom line. What is the main point of this sermon series? The power of crafting a thesis statement or bottom line is that it makes the purpose of the sermon series crystal clear. You've probably seen it or been involved where you start a sermon series and then 2-3 weeks into it, it seems to kind of be floating into topics that don't necessarily seem relevant to the initial idea of the series. So a bottom line can help with this. To create one, use the following guidelines. Take your time in thinking through this and realize that shorter is better. Avoid catchy or cheesy phrases. Just because it rhymes or seems funny or is even short doesn't mean that it is effective or clear. The goal is to provide clarity. Ultimately, this statement is a focal point for you and your team through the entire planning and preaching process. Plus, a statement like this will help others immediately understand what the series is about and what they should be getting out of it. And it makes it more memorable from week to week. Depending on the size of the team that you work with, you may need more or less time than 6 weeks from when the new series will start. When I was regularly preaching, I preferred planning a series 6 weeks out from when it was going to begin. Also, make sure that the right people are at the planning meetings, and I suggest around 3 to 5 people. And specifically, these people are communicators on your team, creatives or ministry leaders, or volunteers who can help you have some outside perspective to keep you and your team from living in a ministry bubble. They need to be people that you trust and can have healthy discourse with. And then finally, have a follow-up meeting 2 weeks later to solidify creative elements and resources that will support the series. I think using a 6-week sermon series planning meeting followed by a 2-week follow-up meeting to confirm creative elements can still allow the team to work 1 month out from when the series is scheduled to start. Hey, let me know in the comments if this video helped you, and if you want more help with your preaching, watch this video about 7 preaching tips almost nobody talks about but will improve your sermon.